he has a conscience. If indeed this is the same version of Donald Trump that was elected, that guy had a conscience, or at least it seemed like he had a conscience. This guy, I don't know. The whole thing is rather bizarre. You either have to go all in on the Q material, you either have to go all in on it and just throw down and just say trust POTUS, or you have to really step back. And the stepping back part is tricky because I don't want the country to fall apart. I didn't even want it to fall apart when Obama was president or Bush was president. I wanted to keep this thing together. But it certainly feels like that you pull Trump out of the equation, and he's like the bad little Jenga block and everything will come down, and it likely will if that's the case. And that gets us back into yesterday's discussion about the Bolshevik Revolution. I was listening to Anthony Sutton this morning, and in 1918, things were still not all that hunky-dory, peachy keen, that the Bolsheviks had taken over basically the two main cities in Russia, and the rest of the country was still very shaky, and there were people, military, who were trying to wrest control, because Lenin did a handshake deal with the government that was already in power, and that they were going to share that government together, share the power together, and that didn't happen. Of course, the Bolsheviks didn't keep their word, and they wrested power from the Kerensky government. So everything's really shaky. It's like they could lose their gains. Now, Anthony Sutton, and you just got to tip your cap to Anthony Sutton. And the amount of research that he did at a time when there was no such thing as the internet. He would go to Washington and he would go into the records and he would request records. And he found an actual bill of sale of munitions, rifles, you name it, arms. They went to the Soviet Union in 1918. It was March of 1918. And the Soviet Union said, okay, well, we'll buy this stuff. But, we got to figure out our resource thing. And as soon as we get the money, we'll pay you. And it's there. It's part of the bill of sale. And so the United States was there for the Soviet Union. We're there for the communists, the Bolsheviks. Here's your weapons. There's your weapons. Now, somebody inside the United States is making money off of that at that time, even though it's early on. This is 4 years after the taxation bill had been started and signed off on. So at that time, they're probably tapping into the taxpayer base. So it didn't really matter if the Soviets, the Bolsheviks, would pay that back, because it was going to get paid for anyway at some point. And maybe, just maybe, they might make it back in double, or some kind of piece of trade, like a trade-off. So that's what happened in 1918. And there's a record of that. We went in and we helped the Russians, not the Russians, we helped the Bolsheviks put down any kind of uprising, because now they had the weapons to do it. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating stuff when you really go back and look at history, see what happened. Really see what happened. Well, we're in a different kind of war now. It's much more sophisticated. It's a much, 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 much more sophisticated war. Would being able to understand who and what did 9/11, would it change things? I always felt that 9/11 was the Gordian knot. You cut 9/11 and you cut everything. You just cut it. That's it. And everything changes. You rescind the Patriot Act. You shut down Guantanamo. You have war crimes trials for people like Dick Cheney and Colin Powell and Donald Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz, all of them. Bush, all of them, war crimes trials. That's what should be happening. That is exactly what should be happening. But it's not. What do we have? What do we have instead? We have a dog and pony show with some alleged Russian collusion, a wise-ass lawyer, New York lawyer, and some blonde bimbo that Trump had a consensual premarital affair with. Was it premarital? I don't think so. I think he was married. Anyway. And that's what we have. That's what's going on. Instead of the nuts and bolts, the real meat of something connected to like how the world has metastasized since 9/11, instead of going in there and taking a laser beam to that thing, we're dealing with this little dog and pony show. It's not. It's a little disheartening, to say the least. But that's what really should be taking place. Will it ever take place? I doubt it. I doubt it. I put a lot of energy into 9/11, untangling it, talking with people. It is, and even to this day, the people who will sign off on that 9/11 was an inside job, they don't even agree with the mechanics of 9/11. Planes, no planes. That seems to be the biggest sticking point now at this point. Planes, no planes. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think we'll eventually have some other kind of false flag psychological operation in crisis, and we'll be on to the next thing. In fact, we've been on to the next thing for a while now. Now it's Sandy Hook, with Boston Marathon kind of lingering in the background. I'll be doing a show today with my good friend Emily in about an hour. We're going to do a 30-minute off-planet. That's kind of a new thing that Emily and I are doing now. We're just going to take the news of the day and kind of go after it. So that'll be hopefully up and running the next day or two. And we're going to be talking about Serena Williams and Joe Rogan and Elon Musk and whatever else pops in. But it won't be long. It'll be very concentrated, focused, clear. Let me see what's going on in the chat room. What's happening in the chat room? Oh, look at that. We got a lot of people. Ooh, yeah. We got a lot of people here. Let's see. I lost a cat to an owl. Cats can't be outside tonight. San Rafael. I don't think it was San Rafael. It was Mill Valley. Mill Valley, San Anselmo. Well, it's the other one. It's Fairfax. Fairfax. James Cortez covers mastering all the drills, lies, etc. Yes, he does. Watch him at the field in Pennsylvania ceremony tomorrow. Why does he? Of course he does. Trump knows everything. He knows everything. I mean, it would be great. I would love it. That would completely redeem the Trump presidency and just put all these people on their heels. And he would have to come out. He'd have to have somebody like Mike Mattis or somebody inside the administration bring it up and legitimize it. But apparently Mike Mattis now is putting together a 2020 presidential run. Have you guys seen that? He's going to run against Trump. Mike Mattis and Bill Kristol. Bill Kristol wants to become vice president of the United States. How about them apples? God. President Mattis. Mike Mattis. Good luck on that. That guy's a twerp. He's a total twerp. Anything else? Anything else? Hey, it's really good to see you guys in the chat room today. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being a part of it. I think that's about it for today. I really don't have a lot else to share. Let me just go over my list here. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Oh, let's see. I guess the only other thing that I was like kind of looking at today was this Les Moonves, the guy who runs CBS. He admits to forcefully kissing Dr. Ex-CBS boss accused of more sexual misconduct. He forcefully kissed a doctor. What does that mean by forcefully kissing somebody? It leaves a wide swath of interpretation. Maybe that was not the only thing he did. This is interesting. Les Moonves is a really powerful dude. Really, really powerful. You have to wonder if there, in a lot of these cases, when somebody, it's almost like a gangland hit combined with a little bit of karma. And you have to wonder whether or not Les Moonves is being moved out. Does he make too much money? Does somebody inside that corporation want to use this moment, want to use this experience, this sordid tale in the history of Les Moonves' life, to eliminate him? We live in such a strange and bizarre time. I was thinking about this the other day, and the internet has become like this fishbowl, and it's all in there. And whether or not you want it to be, it's very transparent. Whether it's transparent for whether you understand and realize the transparency is a whole nother question. It's like, does a fish know that it's actually living in water in a fishbowl? Probably not, because it doesn't have any other reference points. But to that extent, there's been this interesting how do I say this? There's been this interesting movement. I was trying to come up with sort of a word that reflected something in the Crusades. There's been this interesting crusade. Let's just use the word crusade. There's been this interesting crusade to go into people's Twitter accounts and find shit about them and bring it out. Like, right, the director of the Avengers films or the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Look at all that nasty art. It's kicked off the project and may take a very long time for him to work again. And the stuff is pretty creepy. But there's this movement now to go into people's Twitter accounts and just pull them apart and find examples of racism or find examples of misogyny or whatever it is. And I get it, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing. And I'm not saying that if you have disturbing material in your Twitter account, that probably shouldn't be examined, especially if you are an influencer and you're in and around kids, probably needs some examination. That's what I would say. But at the same time, it's also engendered this permission in some ways to go in and become an appendage of Big Brother. And it's happening all the time because we are now judged not by the Spirit of God within us, but we are judged by the ghost of the machine, a different kind of spirit, the digital spirit that is animated by the people that are cohabitating with it and using it to create judgment. So it's a fascinating kind of phenomena, but not one that I'm entirely fond of. I come from a world of privacy. And it's a blade, it's a double-edged sword. It can cut both ways. And we've seen it do that. But what's happened now more than ever is that there are so many nodes, millions and millions of nodes inside of billions of nodes inside of this very elaborate, sophisticated system, that when an event occurs, it can touch any number of those nodes in that moment in a very complex kind of way. So when a person like Les Moonves is accused of something, the accusations are part of this virtual tribunal that we're going through. Forcefully kissing a doctor. it's like I'm not going to sit here and say if I